What is up, fight fans? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the series where I rate each and every UFC fighter's performance on each and every UFC event on a scale of 1 through 10. This past weekend we saw Roman Dolidze absolutely get manhandled by Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. Made him look like he didn't even belong in there. But before we get into that, I'm just going to go over my criteria for my ratings. Firstly, I'll be rating pure performance, which is strictly how they performed on the night regardless of their opposition. Next, I'll be rating strength of opponent, which is how good is their opponent currently, not in their prime, but current form. And then I will take the average of those two scores to create their overall rating, which is a reflection of not only how good they did, but also who they did it against. With that being said, a 10 out of 10 overall would be extremely hard to achieve because you'd need a near-perfect performance versus the best of the best in the division. And of course, don't forget these are all only my opinion. Do not take my ratings too seriously. No disrespect is intended towards the athletes, and if you guys disagree, which we probably will, go ahead and leave it in the comment sections and we can have a fun little discussion. He started off the card with a pretty controversial decision in my opinion, where Eric McConaughey was able to defeat Cody Brundage via split decision, and yeah, I don't know if I agree with it. I personally feel like Cody Brundage won 2 out of the 3 rounds and did enough to win. So for that reason, McConaughey is only going to get a 4 out of 10 pure performance rating despite the win. And for his opponent rating, I gave him a 5 out of 10, where Cody Brundage is a solid opponent, but it's kind of just an average UFC fighter where he has some wins but also has some losses. And that brings McConaughey's performance rating to a very weak 4.5 out of 10 in the win. Very bad for a winning performance. As for Brundage, he by no means dominated or anything, but I do think he did a little bit better. That's why I gave him a 5 out of 10 pure performance rating. As for his opponent rating, I only gave him a 4 out of 10, where McConaughey was looking for his first ever UFC win. He was able to get it, but it was in pretty controversial fashion, as I mentioned before. So that puts Cody at a 4.5 out of 10 in the loss. Not a very high rating, but at least it was even with his opponent, and I honestly think he did enough to win. In this next fight, Gabriela Fernandez was able to defeat Juliana Stoliarenko in a performance that was less dominant than I expected, but she was still able to get the unanimous decision. Julia put on a solid fight, but was just outmatched in my opinion. Hernandez, I'm giving a 6 out of 10 pure performance rating, and for her opponent, I'm giving her a 3 out of 10. Julia has just not been able to find much success in the UFC, as she is now 2-7 in the promotion. This puts Fernandez at a 4.5 out of 10 performance rating. Not a great rating, mostly due to the fact that her opponent was just not the highest level test. As for Julia, I'm going to have to give her a 3 out of 10 pure performance rating. She put up a fight, but was just outmatched pretty much every round. She does get some points on the opponent rating, 6 out of 10. We have seen Fernandez beat Wayne Kong, which was a huge win, beat Charlie Judas, which is aging better and better, so very solid opponent, which brings Julia's overall rating to a 4.5 out of 10, where they actually tied in overall rating. I do think that this is fair due to it was pretty much a mismatch in terms of the matchmaking, and Julia was still able to make it somewhat competitive and, last all 3 rounds, so, gotta give her some credit. In our next fight, we saw Uros Medic knock out Gilbert Urbina in the very first round with an absolutely beautiful left after he was dropped earlier in the round himself. Even though he was dropped, I'm still giving him a 10 out of 10 performance. That was a badass finish. His opponent rating is where he falls down a bit, where Gilbert Urbina is 1-3 now in the UFC. He unfortunately has been finished in every single one of those losses. So I can't give him more than a 2 out of 10 opponent rating, which puts Uros Medic at a 6 out of 10 rating for this great performance. So that is a very strong 6 out of 10. As I previously mentioned, Gilbert was able to get the knockdown before getting finished shortly after. So you guys may be thinking 1 out of 10 pure performance rating is a little harsh, but I think it's fair for how easily Medic was able to come back and get that finish. For his opponent rating, he does get a little higher, 5 out of 10, where Medic is a little bit of an up-and-down fighter, but he's a finishing machine. He's either going to get a finish or get finished. So taking the average of those two scores, Urbina finishes with a 3 out of 10 overall rating in that loss. In our next fight, we get yet another first-round finish where Jocelyn Edwards was able to put on an absolutely dominant performance and knock out Priscilla Cachoeira in the very first round and was absolutely piecing her up start to finish. It was just looked like a punching bag out there, and Jocelyn was having fun on it. For that, she gets an easy 10 out of 10 performance rating against a solid opposition, Priscilla. We've seen her for a while. She's had some ups, had some downs, was coming off of a win. So that is why I'm giving her a 5 out of 10 for the opponent rating, which gives Edwards an overall rating of a 7.5 out of 10, a very strong 7.5 out of 10. That was a nasty, nasty knockout. As for Priscilla, unfortunately it did not go as well. She's going to get a 1 out of 10. She just could not get her hands up and could not avoid these super fast strikes from Jocelyn Edwards, and that's why she gets a 1 out of 10. Her opponent rating saves her a little bit, however, where Jocelyn Edwards has been very hot at the moment, has now had 3 straight finishes, so that is why her opponent rating is going to get a 7 out of 10. This brings Priscilla to an overall 4 out of 10, pretty weak 4 out of 10, mostly carried by that opponent rating. She really got dominated and pieced up. So huge credit for Edwards on that performance. The finishes kept on coming on the prelims. We saw Elijah Smith with one of the most insane slam KOs you are ever going to see, where he slammed Toshiomi Kazama directly into the canvas. The back of his head slammed so hard I thought he might have killed the guy. Thankfully, Kazama was alright. They revealed the brain scans came out okay. So that is always good to hear. And of course, we're going to have to give Elijah Smith a 10 out of 10 performance rating. That was just absolutely insane, man. I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life. Unfortunately, his opponent rating is going to bring him down a little bit, where Kazama is now 1-3 in the UFC and never really was able to get any momentum. But still an absolutely insane performance. Elijah Smith is going to have a 6.5 out of 10 overall performance, a very strong 6.5, because that was just insane. As for Kazama, unfortunately, he is going to have to get a 1 out of 10 pure performance rating due to that finish. However, his opponent rating does save him a little bit, where Elijah Smith is one of the hotter prospects coming up and just been dominating his fighters. So that is why I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10 on the opponent rating, which puts Kazama at a 3.5 out of 10 rating. Pretty weak 3.5 out of 10. That was just insane. In our next fight, we saw Julius Walker walk away with a unanimous decision over Rafael Cerqueira. Walker was able to control most of the fight, but there was some scary moments where he did get rocked a few times, but he also rocked Cerqueira as well and was just able to control him with his wrestling for the most part. So that is why he gets a 6 out of 10. As for his opponent rating, it does bring him down a little bit, where Cerqueira is still searching for his very first UFC win. So that's going to put Walker at a 4 out of 10 overall for that win. As for Rafael Cerqueira, he did have some moments where he was able to hurt Walker. It was very few and far between, so that is why I can't give him any higher than a 3 out of 10 for his pure performance rating. And as for his opponent rating, we still don't know too much about Julius Walker, where he still only had 2 UFC fights, that split decision loss versus Alonzo Menefield, and then this win now versus Rafael Cerqueira. So that is why I'm giving him a 5 out of 10 for the opponent rating. This puts Cerqueira at a 4 out of 10 overall rating, which actually means they both tied, and I only think that that's fair because Cerqueira was in there as a huge, huge underdog and was still able to rock him a few times. The opponent ratings are really what's evening these ones out. In our next fight, we saw another first round finish with Christian Leroy Duncan knocking out Eric Anders in the very first round. I gotta give him a 10 out of 10 performance. The only thing that could maybe bring that down is he did have an eye poke and a low below, so I don't know, maybe I should have taken a point down for that, but let me know what you guys think. As for the opponent rating for CLD, I'm going to have to give Eric Anders a 6 out of 10. We have been seeing him hot lately, coming off that win against Chris Weidman and Jamie Pickett, but I can't go any higher than 6 out of 10. So that's going to bring the average to an 8 out of 10 overall for CLD in a crazy performance. The only thing, maybe I should have taken one for the nut kick and the low below, but if the ref didn't, hey, I'm not gonna. As for Anders, unfortunately can't go higher than a 1 out of 10 for that pure performance rating, but I can go pretty high on that opponent rating, an 8 out of 10 for CLD as an opponent, one of the more dangerous fighters in that division. So that high opponent rating is going to bring his overall rating up to a 4.5 out of 10 in that loss. This card had a lot of first round finishes. But there was no finish in this next fight. Gene Matsumoto was able to defeat Miles Johns via split decision. Now, this is a somewhat controversial decision. Some people said Miles Johns was robbed. In my opinion, I wouldn't call it a robbery, but I could see it of going either way. And for that reason, that is why I gave these two identical pure performance ratings, and I also think that they are pretty even in terms of opponents. So these guys are going all identical. Pure performance rating, opponent rating, all identical. This was such an even and close fight, it was hard for me to differentiate the two. So they are both going to be averaged out at a 6.5 out of 10. This was a really great fight, and I don't think either stock for either fighter goes down. I think both stock might have gone up, and I want to see them both fight as soon as possible. Great scrap. In our next fight, it was another decision where Andre Fili was able to defeat Christian Rodriguez via split decision, and this was another somewhat controversial decision where many thought that it should have been unanimous. I honestly tend to agree with that opinion. I think that Andre Fili definitely was the better fighter on the night. I'm going to give him a 6.5 out of 10 pure performance rating. As for his opponent rating, he was facing the prospect killer in Christian Rodriguez, where we've seen this guy be up-and-coming prospect time and time again, but when he fights the older veterans, he gets the losing end of the stick. And this time it happened again, but he is a very solid fighter, and he's pretty young himself. So I'm going to give 6.5 out of 10 for the opponent rating for Andre Fili, and that puts Andre Fili at a 6.5 out of 10 average for his overall rating in that performance. As for Christian Rodriguez, 5 out of 10 pure performance. He made it competitive, but definitely I believe was the losing fighter in the end. His opponent rating is going to be bringing that up. 6.5 out of 10. Andre Fili is always game, always dangerous, which is going to put Christian Rodriguez overall at a 5.7 out of 10. Very happy to see Fili back in the win column. He's always been a fan favorite fighter. On to our next fight, Jasmine Lucindo was able to defeat Angela Hill via unanimous decision in what was mostly a dominant performance, which is why I'm going to give her a 7.5 out of 10 for the performance. She looked good on the feet, looked good on the ground. I can't go any higher because it wasn't a finish and it wasn't just complete dominance. Hill at least was putting up somewhat of a fight, but Lucindo was the clear winner. Great performance. As for her opponent, I'm going to give her a 7 out of 10 opponent rating. Angela Hill is one of the best veterans in the UFC, has been around for so long, has fought the best of the best for so long. Easily a 7 out of 10 opponent rating, which is going to put Lucindo at a 7.25 out of 10 overall rating for that performance. Very solid performance against a crafty vet in Angela Hill. For Hill's rating, I'm going to give her a 4 out of 10 on the pure performance. She made it somewhat competitive, but she was the clear loser in my opinion. And her rating will get pulled up by that opponent rating, which is an 8 out of 10. Lucindo is one of the best prospects in the women's divisions. She's only 23 years old, which is crazy for how many fights she has. So that is an 8 out of 10 opponent rating. And that puts Hill at an average of a 6 out of 10 overall rating in that loss against a very strong opposition. So no shame in losing to someone like Lucindo, who has just been very good other than that Lemos loss. This next fight was a crazy one where Steve Erceg was able to defeat Ode Osborne via unanimous decision, where he got dropped in the first round and it was looking like really bad for him. Ode was looking locked in, but the next two rounds Steve was able to clutch up and squeak out those next two rounds and get the decision. And what a turnaround, man. Showed his heart. I was really worried for him at the beginning of the fight, but he turned it around and was able to put on a solid 7 out of 10 pure performance rating against a solid 6 out of 10 opponent in Ode Osborne. We have seen this guy fight for a while now and always look good early. Sometimes he tends to, gas out a little bit and kind of give up his lead in fights, but early on, Ode Osborne is dangerous. So that is going to put Steve Erceg at a 6.5 out of 10 for that overall rating. Can't go much higher than that due to him getting dropped, but still a crazy turnaround comeback. As for Ode, I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10 pure performance rating, mostly due to the fact he looked so good in that first round. He kind of fell off in the next two rounds, but he looked amazing in that first round and nearly got Steve Erceg out of there. But unfortunately for him, he was not able to get him out of there, so I can't go any higher than the 5 out of 10 on that pure performance rating. His opponent rating will bring that up a little bit, 7 out of 10. Steve Erceg, we have seen this guy fight the best of the best of the flyweights. He's now moved up to the bantamweight division, so that is why I can't go any higher. But that is going to put Ode Osborne at a solid 6 out of 10 overall rating, pretty high for a loss. And he looked good, especially in that first round, but unfortunately was not able to hold on. Next, it was time for our main event where Anthony Fluffy Hernandez absolutely big broed Roman Dolidze. Made him look like he did not belong in there with him and made him look like he was just some random dude they found on the street. Just had no regard for Dolidze's power and just dominated him until the fourth round, where he was able to lock in that rear naked choke where Dolidze just wanted no part of it. He was done. And that was probably one of the best performances we have seen in a long time. Easily a 10 out of 10 performance. I almost had to go higher than 10 because that was just that dominant. Not only was that pure performance dominant, but it was against a very solid opponent. Despite how he looked, an 8 out of 10 opponent, Roman Dolidze. We have seen him in there looking tough, looking good against some of the best in that middleweight division, and he had never been finished until now, and Anthony Fluffy Hernandez just did it whenever he wanted. That puts Fluffy's overall rating at a 9 out of 10. I believe the highest overall rating we have given out so far on the channel. So be sure you guys like and subscribe to, find out if someone can beat it. But moving on to Roman Dolidze, yeah, he's going to get a 1 out of 10 pure performance rating, obviously. As for his opponent rating, 8.5 out of 10. Fluffy Hernandez, one of the hardest guys in that middleweight division, and has just been running through all of the people they put in front of him, making it look easy, making it look effortless. So that is going to put Roman Dolidze at a 4.75 out of 10 overall rating, completely carried by his opponent rating. It is a very weak 4.75 out of 10. What a performance from Fluffy, man. That was just absolutely insane. I expected him to win, but I did not expect him to do it that easily. And before I let you guys go, just wanted to go over the performance ratings power rankings for the card, with our top 3 being Anthony Fluffy Hernandez with a 9, CLD with an 8, and Jocelyn Edwards with a 7.5 overall rating, with Gilbert Urbina unfortunately picking up our lowest overall rating with a 3 out of 10 overall. But that is going to do it for me. If you guys made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you guys so much. These videos take me a while to put together, so please consider, liking, subscribing, putting on the bell icon, and, leave a comment if you guys agree. Was I too harsh? Was I too lenient on my ratings? Was I just tripping overall? Let me know. And as always, I hope you guys had fun watching. I had fun making it for you guys, and until next time, stay safe.